The universe had always been full of mysteries, yet nothing was more strange to the young alien student than the decision of their academy to send them to Earth for a cultural exchange program. They had prepared for years by studying fragments of human history and examining endless reports about Earth's strange climate, food, and behaviors, but no amount of reading could match the moment when the ship finally descended and the alien saw the blue planet turning below them with oceans that glittered like polished gems and land scattered with lights that pulsed like living stars. For the alien who had lived their entire life in a world of gray skies and silent plains, the sight was overwhelming, and they pressed their forehead against the cold window of the transport ship, wondering if they were ready for the unknown. When the landing completed, the alien was introduced to the person assigned as their human mentor. His name was Alex, a young man who looked ordinary compared to the glowing figures of their academy instructors, yet carried an energy that made him stand out. He greeted the alien with a smile that stretched wide across his face and a voice filled with warmth, as if he had been waiting for this moment for months. The alien tried to repeat the greeting they had practiced, but the words twisted clumsily in their mouth, which made Alex laugh softly, not in cruelty, but in genuine amusement, that somehow made the alien feel both embarrassed and comforted. They walked together out of the landing bay into the human city, where towers reached high into the sky, and vehicles raced along glowing roads, each one filled with noise and motion, unlike anything the alien had known before. The first days were overwhelming, as the alien adjusted to human customs. Every morning Alex would prepare something called breakfast and insist that the aliens sit at a table instead of consuming nutrient capsules on the move as they had always done at home. The food came in strange shapes and colors, sometimes steaming, sometimes cold, and always rich with scents that confused the alien senses. When they hesitated, Alex encouraged them gently to try, and the first bite exploded with sensations that their tongue had never registered before, sweet and salty, and warm in a way that made their entire body shiver. The alien found themselves both fascinated and unsettled, because food was supposed to be fuel, not pleasure, and the way humans turned every meal into a ritual of conversation and laughter felt like an alien ceremony in itself. Alex showed the alien how humans covered their bodies with different fabrics each day, choosing colors and patterns not just for protection, but to express moods or status. The alien struggled with buttons and zippers, sometimes putting clothes on backwards, which always made Alex chuckle as he helped adjust them. When they walked outside, people stared, but most smiled and waved, which the alien learned was a gesture of friendliness. At first the alien responded stiffly, but soon discovered that waving back earned more smiles and a strange warm feeling in their chest that made them want to keep trying. The greatest challenge came in the form of human interaction. On their home world, silence was a sign of respect, but on Earth silence felt awkward. So Alex constantly asked questions about their thoughts, their feelings, their memories. The alien did not know how to answer, because their species rarely shared such private things. Yet Alex's curiosity was not mocking but sincere, and gradually the alien began to open pieces of themselves they had never revealed before. Each night they returned to the small guest room in Alex's house and replayed the day in their mind, trying to understand why humans valued emotions so highly, and why Alex's constant encouragement made them feel less like a stranger and more like someone beginning to belong. Still, not everything was comfortable. The alien noticed small changes in their body after only a few days of human meals. Their stomach felt heavy at times, and a faint pressure began to grow after each meal. They dismissed it at first, thinking it was the result of unfamiliar food. But as the week continued, the feeling intensified, until one evening, while sitting with Alex and sharing laughter over a human comedy show, the alien suddenly placed a hand against their middle and realized it was swelling slightly. Panic shot through their chest as they excused themselves and hurried to the mirror in their room. Their reflection revealed what they feared, a visible rounding of their belly that had not been there before. They pressed against it, confused and frightened, wondering if Earth's food was toxic to them or if some hidden reaction was taking place inside their body. Their thoughts swirled in chaos. The Academy had promised safety, claiming humans were trustworthy allies and that their planet posed no threat. Yet here the aliens stood watching their body transform against their will. Could Alex have hidden some intention, slipping strange ingredients into their meals, experimenting without permission? The alien wanted to believe Alex's kindness was genuine, but doubt crept in like a cold shadow whispering that trust was dangerous. They sat on the bed trembling with both fear and confusion, staring at their reflection while memories of home filled their mind, memories of elders warning about the unpredictability of humans, of friends urging them not to volunteer for the program. Had they been naive to think this journey was safe? Later that night, Alex knocked gently at the door, asking if everything was all right. The alien forced a calm voice and answered yes, though their hand remained pressed tightly against their stomach. They could not share the truth yet, not until they understood what was happening. As Alex's footsteps faded down the hallway, the alien whispered softly to themselves that tomorrow they would watch more carefully. They would test the food. They would uncover the truth behind this strange swelling. Yet deep down they knew fear was only part of what they felt. There was also curiosity, a dangerous curiosity about what their body was becoming on this strange blue planet and what it meant for the future of their kind. The next morning's sunlight filtered through the curtains of the small room, and the alien woke with a strange heaviness pressing down on their body. They stretched slowly, feeling the odd weight in their middle more clearly now, and when they sat up their hand went instinctively to their belly again. It was not imagination. The swelling was real, firmer than before, as though their body had begun a process it was never meant to undergo. Fear twisted inside them as they wondered if the food they had eaten was poisoning them from within. But then another thought struck harder. What if this was not sickness, but some human experiment hidden under the mask of friendship? They walked carefully into the kitchen where Alex was already preparing breakfast. The smell of sizzling bread and eggs filled the air, a scent that only a week earlier had been strange and almost unbearable, but now made their senses tingle with confusing desire. Alex greeted them cheerfully, asking if they had slept well. But the alien could only nod stiffly, their eyes fixed on the food. When Alex set the plate in front of them, the alien hesitated, remembering the changes, remembering the swelling. Yet part of them still wanted to taste it, to feel the warmth spreading across their tongue again. They ate slowly while keeping their gaze low, and when Alex asked if something was wrong, they finally raised their head and said in a trembling voice that their body was changing in ways they did not understand. At first Alex thought it was just nerves, maybe homesickness. But when the alien lifted their shirt slightly to show the small but undeniable curve in their stomach, his smile faded into serious concern. He reached forward gently, but the alien pulled back with suspicion, eyes narrowing as they demanded to know what he had done, what strange ingredients he had hidden in their food, what secret human plan was unfolding through their body. Their words came fast, each one heavier with panic, accusing him of betrayal and cruelty. Alex froze, shocked by the sudden anger, then spoke quietly that he had never harmed them, that everything he gave was ordinary food from his own kitchen. Nothing more. The alien shook their head, refusing to believe so easily. Trust had seemed natural during the first days, but now fear wrapped around every thought. They reminded Alex of the Academy's warning that humans were unpredictable, that their motives were difficult to read, and now with their belly growing and no explanation, the warning sounded like truth. Tears welled in their eyes as they shouted that he had tricked them, that they were nothing more than a subject in some secret human experiment. The room grew tense with silence after the outburst, the smell of breakfast still lingering, but now bitter with suspicion. Alex did not raise his voice. Instead, he sat down slowly and said he understood why the alien felt frightened. That being far from home, surrounded by strange customs, would make anyone uneasy. He promised again that he had done nothing to harm them and urged them to let him help figure out what was happening. The alien wanted to believe, but fear still screamed inside them. In that moment, they felt utterly alone, far from their people. Unable to call for guidance because their communicator only reached the orbiting station, and messages to their world would take weeks to arrive. They tried sending a signal anyway, tapping at the device in their pocket, but the small screen blinked. With error, blocked by interference from Earth's dense atmosphere. No answer came, no comforting words from their instructors, no advice from fellow students, only silence that deepened their panic. The day passed slowly, filled with unease. Every time the alien felt the tightness in their belly, they glanced at Alex suspiciously, watching his every move, noting the way he handled food, the way he spoke softly, the way he never once acted like someone guilty of hiding a plan. This confused them more, because if he truly was experimenting, then why did his eyes carry so much concern? Why did his hands tremble slightly when he reached to pass a cup of water? Why did his voice sound almost desperate when he told them again and again that he only wanted to help? That night, the alien sat alone in the guest room, turning the communicator over and over in their hand, whispering into the silence as if their people might somehow hear across the stars, confessing that something was happening inside them, something. They could not stop. As the hours passed, the pressure grew until the alien curled on the bed, clutching their stomach. They wanted to cry out, but fear silenced them, afraid that if Alex entered, he would see their weakness and confirm that they were nothing more than a fragile subject. Eventually, exhaustion pulled them into uneasy sleep where dreams twisted with images of food glowing with strange colors, of Alex standing over them with tools in his hands, of their belly growing until it filled the entire room. They awoke in the middle of the night with sweat on their forehead, heart racing, and when they looked into the mirror, they gasped because the glow from their dream seemed almost real, a faint shimmer beneath the surface of their skin. The next morning, Alex knocked softly on the door and asked if they were ready for breakfast. The alien pressed their hands over their belly and whispered with dread and confusion, "Human, what have you done to me?" The alien could not stop thinking about the words they had spoken in the dark of their room, the whisper that had slipped from their mouth like an accusation too heavy to carry. And when morning came, they felt the same mixture of fear and suspicion, yet also something else stirring deep inside, a curiosity they could not silence no matter how hard they tried. Their bodies still felt strange, the tightness in their stomach more obvious than before, but now there was also a pulsing rhythm beneath the skin, as if something alive was responding to every bite of human food they had eaten. They sat silently at the table while Alex prepared another meal, the clinking of dishes and the hiss of the pan filling the kitchen with familiar sounds that should have been comforting, but instead pressed against the alien's nerves. Alex placed the food down gently and asked if they would eat, his voice soft as though speaking to someone on the edge of breaking. The alien hesitated, staring at the plate, then finally lifted a fork and tasted the meal slowly, their eyes fixed on Alex the entire time, watching for the slightest flicker of deceit. But there was none, only the same patient expression, only the same quiet hope that they might trust him again. After a few bites, the alien felt the weight in their belly tighten further, and they winced, pressing a hand against themselves, fear rising once more. Alex leaned forward in concern and asked what was happening. For a long time the alien said nothing, then finally admitted in a trembling voice that they were scared of losing who they were, scared that Earth's food was changing them into something unrecognizable, that every day they looked in the mirror and saw less of their true self. Hearing this, Alex's expression softened even more, and instead of defending himself, he promised that he would find out the truth. He stood and disappeared into his small study, gathering books, notes, and the glowing screen of his computer, determined to compare the alien's biology with human nutrition. The alien followed reluctantly, still suspicious but also desperate for answers. Hours passed as Alex researched, pulling up data about vitamins, minerals, proteins, and how they affected different systems in the human body. He compared it with the fragments of alien biology provided by the Academy, though the information was incomplete and confusing. Still he pressed on, scribbling notes, his brow furrowed with concentration, and the alien found themselves watching him closely, surprised by the effort he was willing to give for them. When Alex finally looked up, his voice carried a cautious tone, saying he believed the food itself was not poisoning them, but rather awakening something dormant within their biology. He explained that nutrients on Earth were richer and more complex than those found on the aliens' home planet, and that it was possible their body was reacting not as a victim of harm, but as a vessel for growth. The alien listened in silence, their heart pounding, torn between fear and disbelief. The idea that Earth's food could trigger some hidden part of their species was terrifying but also strangely mesmerizing. Like a secret that had been buried in their DNA, waiting for the right environment to unlock it. That night the alien lay in bed, unable to sleep, replaying Alex's words again and again. Could it be true that humans were not destroying them, but instead revealing something their kind had never discovered? Yet fear still clung tightly, because what if the change led to pain or death? What if they were no longer accepted by their people? What if they returned home only to be treated as a freak of nature? Their minds swirled until exhaustion pulled them under, and their dreams were filled with visions of glowing fruits, of rivers that shimmered with golden water, of their bodies splitting open to release light that stretched across the stars. Following day they felt weaker than before, and when Alex encouraged them to eat a little more, promising he would monitor carefully, the alien agreed reluctantly. The taste was still wonderful and confusingly addictive, but soon after swallowing the final bite, a sharp wave of energy rushed through their body. Their chest tightened, their arms trembled, and their vision blurred until the world tilted sideways and they collapsed to the floor. Alex rushed to their side, panic written across his face, calling their name again and again while trying to keep them conscious. But the alien could not respond, their body shaking with strange pulses as if every cell was waking up at once. When their eyes finally opened again, they were lying on the couch, Alex kneeling beside them with worry etched into every line of his face. He whispered in relief that they were awake, but his voice carried something heavier too, the realization that this was no simple reaction. The alien looked down and gasped because their belly was glowing faintly, a soft light seeping from beneath. Their skin, pulsing with rhythm like the beat of a second heart. They pressed their hand against it in disbelief, their fear returning with overwhelming force, and with tears welling in their eyes they turned to Alex and demanded to know what was happening to them. Alex did not answer immediately, his own eyes wide with shock, but slowly he shook his head and said he believed this was the proof that Earth's food was unlocking something hidden deep inside them, something that even their people had never known existed. His voice carried awe and fear at the same time as he whispered that perhaps they were evolving, not by choice but by the natural push of the universe itself. The alien felt the words sink into their chest like heavy stones. Evolving was a word that held both promise and danger, and they did not know whether to feel hope or despair. They whispered through trembling lips that they were terrified, that they had never asked for this, that they wanted to go home before the change consumed them. Alex reached out and held their hand gently, promising that he would not let them face it alone. He told them he would stand by them no matter how strange things became, that he would help them find the answers, even if it meant searching every corner of science and history. The alien stared at him through blurry vision, torn between the instinct to pull away and the growing warmth in their chest that came not from fear but from trust. For the first time since the swelling began, they realized that perhaps Alex's kindness was not a mask, perhaps his patience was not a trick. Yet the fear of losing themselves was still too strong, and as they closed their eyes against the glowing light beneath their skin, they whispered that they did not want to become something unrecognizable. Alex said nothing more, only held their hand as the glow continued to pulse faintly in the quiet of the night. The alien woke with heavy eyes, the faint glow beneath their skin still shimmering softly as though the night had never truly ended. And as they sat up on the couch they felt a strange calm mixing with the fear, a silence inside that was different from panic, more like the waiting pause before something inevitable. Alex was still nearby, his head resting in his hands, exhaustion clear from staying awake the entire night to watch over them. When he noticed the alien stirring, he straightened quickly, his voice filled with gentle worry as he asked how they felt. But the alien did not know how to answer because their body felt both weaker and stronger at the same time. Like a storm tearing through them and yet leaving behind a new foundation. For a long moment, they simply sat in silence until finally the alien whispered that they wanted the truth. All of it, without hesitation and without comforting lies. They wanted to know exactly what Alex had discovered. They wanted to know what was happening inside them, because the fear of not knowing was heavier than the fear of any answer. Alex nodded slowly, his face solemn, and then led them back to his study where papers and screens still glowed with scattered notes from the previous night. He took a deep breath before speaking, explaining carefully that he had compared every possible nutrient, every trace of Earth's food, with the fragments of data from the Alien Academy, and the conclusion was impossible to ignore. The swelling and the glow were not sickness. They were the signs of a dormant genetic code awakening, a code that had likely remained hidden in their people for thousands of years, never revealed because their own planet lacked the environment to trigger it. The alien listened with wide eyes, their chest tightening as each word pressed deeper, and though part of them wanted to deny it, the evidence was overwhelming. Alex showed them patterns in the data, similarities between human cellular reactions and the sudden activity in their own biology, proof that Earth's food was not poisoning them, but unlocking traits that had been waiting silently in their DNA. The alien trembled as they whispered that if this was true, then it meant humans were not only safe but vital, that their species might have never discovered this part of themselves without contact with Earth. The realization was almost unbearable, because it meant the warnings of their elders were not only wrong, but dangerously limiting, keeping their people blind to possibilities. Tears welled in their eyes as they admitted they were afraid not of Alex, but of themselves. Afraid of what their own kind would say if they returned like this, glowing with change, no longer the same as the one who left. They imagined standing before their teachers with a body that pulsed like a living lantern. Imagined the whispers of being unnatural. Imagined the fear in the eyes of their peers who might see them as corrupted by humanity rather than evolved. The thought of rejection stung deeper than the physical pain, and they pressed their hands against their belly as though trying to hide the light, whispering that they did not want to be seen as a monster. Alex stepped closer, his voice steady, though his hands trembled slightly, and he told them they were not a monster, they were a pioneer. He said they were the first of their kind to see what lay hidden beneath the surface of their own existence, the first to show that the universe still held secrets within their very bodies. He told them that change was frightening because it meant stepping into the unknown, but without it no species would ever grow, no civilization would ever rise. The alien listened, their tears falling silently, and though the words were meant to comfort, they also cut deeply because they knew he was right. Evolution did not wait for permission. It arrived like a tide that could not be stopped, and they were standing at the shore with the waves crashing over them, whether they wished it or not. Later that day, the alien lay quietly in the garden behind Alex's house, watching the strange colors of Earth's sky shift as clouds drifted slowly. And for the first time they thought of their home, not with longing, but with a strange sadness. They realized that their planet, for all its familiarity, had kept them dormant, locked in a state of stillness, while Earth had awakened something extraordinary. The weight of the truth pressed on them, and they knew a choice was coming soon. A choice between returning unchanged by pretending nothing had happened, or embracing the transformation and facing the unknown path it would lead them on. As the sun began to set, Alex came to sit beside them, his presence calm, and he asked gently what they were thinking. The alien spoke softly, their voice unsteady, saying that they were terrified of returning home glowing and changed, terrified of being rejected, yet also terrified of staying and losing the identity they had known their entire life. Alex placed a hand on their shoulder and told them that no matter the choice they would not be alone, because friendship was not bound by biology or planets, it was built by trust, and trust was something they had already forged together. Fell, and the stars appeared, glittering across the sky like scattered jewels, and the aliens stared at them with fresh tears. They realized they were crying not from fear this time, but from the overwhelming weight of standing between two worlds, knowing that whichever path they chose would change history for their people. They whispered that they did not ask for this, that they only wanted to learn and share culture, but instead they had become the beginning of something much greater. Alex looked at them and said perhaps that was exactly why they had been chosen, not by the Academy but by fate itself. The alien turned their face away, hiding their tears, but deep inside a small flame of acceptance began to spark. They were still afraid, still uncertain, but they knew the truth now. The glow in their belly was not a curse, but a signal, a sign that evolution had found its doorway through them, and no amount of denial could close it. The night stretched long and silent, the stars above glimmering like witnesses to the struggle that churned inside the alien's heart. And as they lay awake staring at the ceiling, they felt the glow in their body pulsing gently, as though urging them to listen, as though telling them that the time of denial was over. For so many days they had tried to resist, clinging to the idea that they could return home unchanged. But now the truth had unfolded so clearly that it could not be ignored. The change was not sickness and not some cruel trick. It was the stirring of evolution, and though it terrified them, it also filled them with a quiet sense of destiny. When morning came, Alex greeted them with tired eyes but a hopeful smile, placing a cup of warm tea on the table and asking softly if they were ready to talk about what came next. The alien sat slowly, their hands trembling around the cup, and for a long moment they said nothing, letting the steam rise between them as if it carried the unspoken words. Finally, with a deep breath, the alien confessed that they had spent the night thinking, replaying every fear and every dream, and had come to realize that there was no path back to who they had been before. Their body had already crossed a threshold, and to deny it would be to live a lie. They whispered that they were afraid their people might reject them, but they could no longer pretend that nothing had happened. Alex listened silently, nodding with understanding, and when they finished he told them with steady conviction that truth always demanded courage, and that perhaps their people needed to see what was possible through them. He suggested recording a message, something honest and heartfelt, to be sent back to the Academy once the long-distance communicator could connect with their world. The alien hesitated at first, their heart pounding at the thought of exposing themselves to judgment, but then they remembered the glowing reflection in the mirror, the way the light had seemed alive with promise, and they realized they could not hide forever. With trembling fingers they activated the communicator and began to speak, their voice soft but unwavering as they described the journey. They spoke of their first days on Earth, of the strange tastes and the laughter at the table, of the confusion and the fear as their belly began to swell, of the suspicion, anger they had thrown at Alex, and finally of the moment the truth revealed itself. They admitted they had been afraid of being nothing more than an experiment, afraid of losing themselves, but what had happened was not destruction, it was awakening. They told their people that the humans had not harmed them, but had instead provided the key that unlocked what had always been hidden inside, a dormant potential that even the oldest knowledge of their world had never uncovered. Their voice broke with emotion as they declared that humans were not a threat but a bridge, not a danger but an ally, and that through them a new path of evolution had been discovered. When the message ended, the aliens sat in silence, their hands still trembling. But in their chest there was a strange relief, as though the heavy weight of secrecy had finally been lifted. Alex placed a reassuring hand on their shoulder and said that no matter how their people responded, they had already done something extraordinary. The alien nodded slowly, feeling both fear and pride mingling together like two rivers meeting. Unstoppable and eternal. Days passed as they waited for a reply, each one filled with moments of reflection. Sometimes the alien sat in the garden, watching the birds that fluttered among the trees, realizing how small and fragile yet resilient life could be. Sometimes they joined Alex in the city, walking among humans who smiled and waved, and for the first time the alien did not feel entirely separate, but instead felt a thread of connection. At night the glow in their belly remained, no longer frightening but strangely comforting, as though it had become a companion whispering of the future. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the communicator buzzed with a reply. The alien's hands shook as they activated it, their heart racing with dread. The message was brief, filled with formal words from the academy, but behind the formality there was something unexpected. Instead of condemnation, there was curiosity. Instead of rejection, there was caution mixed with interest. The academy did not yet understand what had happened, but requested that the alien continue to observe and record the transformation. They wanted more knowledge before making judgment. It was not full acceptance, but it was not rejection either, and for the alien it felt like a doorway left open, a chance to show that what had begun on Earth was not a curse but a gift. Tears filled their eyes as they lowered the communicator, whispering that they had not been cast out, that perhaps their people would one day see the truth as they had. Alex smiled gently and told them that every great change begins with a single step, and they had taken that step with courage. The alien looked at him then, truly looked, and realized that their journey had not been about food or biology alone, but about trust, about learning that fear could be met with patience, that suspicion could be healed by kindness, and that even across the gulf of species, friendship could take root. That evening they stood together outside, gazing at the horizon where the sun melted into the sea, painting the sky with colors so vivid that the alien felt their chest ache with wonder. The glow in their belly pulsed in harmony with the fading light, and for the first time they did not try to hide it. They let it shine freely, a symbol of what had been discovered, a signal to the universe that change had begun. Alex stood beside them in silence, and together they looked up at the stars, knowing that history had already been altered, that one human and one alien had together opened a future neither species could have imagined alone. The alien whispered softly that they were no longer afraid, that whatever lay ahead they would face it, not as a frightened student, but as the first of their kind to embrace the unknown. Alex nodded, his smile warm, and with that the story of fear and suspicion finally became a story of hope. And in that moment, under the endless night sky, the alien felt something they had not known before, a quiet peace, the peace of acceptance, the peace of belonging, and above all the peace of knowing that they had not been destroyed by Earth. They had been reborn through it. The end.